Rain poured down over the city of Houston like a curtain of silver needles, accompanied by thunder that rolled endlessly through the clouds. Ethan had just arrived at the Marlowe Hotel, a centuries-old building that stood solemnly on the edge of downtown. It wasn't his first choice. Most modern hotels had been fully booked due to a tech convention. But it was late, he was tired, and the rain made wandering around unbearable. The lobby had a faded elegance to it, chandeliers coated in years of dust, wallpaper peeling ever so slightly at the edges, and the faint scent of mold hidden beneath an overlay of lemon polish. Behind the desk stood an elderly woman, dressed in a dated uniform that looked like it hadn't been changed since the 1960s. "Welcome, sir," she said flatly, sliding an old-fashioned brass key across the counter. "Room 917 is ready." Ethan raised an eyebrow. A physical key? No key cards? But fatigue won over curiosity. He offered a polite nod and took the key without a word. The elevator groaned as it rose, the numbers lighting up at a sluggish pace. When he reached the 9th floor, a cold draft greeted him. The hallway was dim, the carpet worn thin in places, and the fluorescent lights flickered like they were on the verge of death. As he walked to his room, his footsteps echoed longer than they should have, like the hallway stretched out behind him. Room 917 sat at the very end. The door was heavy, and as he turned the key, it creaked open with reluctant resistance. Inside, the room was ordinary at first glance. A queen-size bed, a wooden dresser, and a large antique mirror on the wall facing the bed. Rain tapped gently against the large window, and the glow of the city beyond flickered beneath the storm. Too tired to unpack, Ethan dropped his bag and collapsed into the bed. The mattress groaned beneath him, and the soft rhythm of rain began to lull him toward sleep. Then he heard it, a whisper, so soft it could have been imagined. But it wasn't the rain, it wasn't the wind. It was close, like someone exhaling right beside his ear. He opened his eyes. There was nothing there. But when he glanced toward the mirror, he froze. In the reflection, faint, almost like a shadow, stood a figure. It wasn't in the room, only in the mirror. Tall, thin, head slightly bowed, staring at him. He spun around. Nothing. Heart pounding, Ethan looked back into the mirror. The figure was closer now. The rain outside grew heavier. The lights in the hallway flickered again, and the mirror began to fog from the inside. Ethan stared at the mirror, his breath caught somewhere between his chest and throat. The fog didn't make sense. The rest of the room was dry. No kettle, no hot shower, no reason for condensation. And yet the mirror, large and oval, with gold-accented edges, was slowly misting over from the inside. Not on the glass surface, but behind it, like something was breathing on the other side. He stood up, hesitantly stepping toward it. One step, then another. Each footfall echoed too loud in the silence, as if the hotel had swallowed every other sound except his. As he approached, he noticed something more terrifying. The figure was still there, still staring. But now, its hands were visible, long fingers pressed gently against the inside of the mirror. They didn't smudge the fog. Instead, they seemed to shape it, like the mirror wasn't reflecting anymore. It was containing something. Someone. Ethan felt a cold bead of sweat trail down his spine. "This isn't real," he muttered under his breath, blinking hard. When he opened his eyes again, the fog was gone. The figure? Gone too. Just his own reflection now, pale and wide-eyed. He backed away slowly, refusing to turn his back to the glass. His hand groped for the nightstand, found his phone. No signal. Of course. The rain pounded harder outside. The lights flickered once, then again. Then a knock. He jumped, twisting toward the door. Another knock, this time louder. He approached, pressing an ear against the wood. No footsteps, no shadows under the door. Just the knock, and silence. He cracked the door open. The hallway was empty. But as he turned to go back inside, he froze. Something had changed. The mirror, Now there were handprints on the inside of the glass. Not one, dozens, as if multiple figures had been pressing from within. Some large, some child-sized, all splayed out in silent screams. Ethan backed away until he hit the wall. Then his room phone rang. The sudden shrill sound nearly stopped his heart. He let it ring twice, 3 times, before picking it up. Hello? Nothing, just static. Then, just before he hung up, a voice, dry, whispers layered atop whispers. You're not alone in 917. Click. The line went dead. Ethan stood there, the sound of the dial tone humming in his ears, as the mirror across the room slowly began to fog again. Ethan gripped the phone receiver tightly, his knuckles turning white. The voice still echoed in his ears. You're not alone in 917. He stared at the mirror across the room, where the fog once again spread like frost. This time it came quicker, climbing from the edges toward the center, as though pulled by invisible fingers. He hung up the phone, the clack of plastic against the cradle sounding far louder than it should. He needed to leave, now. Ethan lunged for his bag and yanked it open, fumbling with the zipper. But then, he stopped. The mirror creaked. A sound like old wood under pressure. But the mirror hadn't moved. It was mounted firmly on the wall. Yet he heard it again. Creak! This time followed by the distinct sound of glass flexing, as if the surface was breathing. He backed away toward the door, hand reaching for the knob. Locked. He hadn't locked it. He twisted it harder. Still locked. It wouldn't budge. His breathing quickened. The air in the room had grown dense, humid, like it was being exhaled into by 100 lungs. His shirt clung to his back with sweat. Suddenly a soft thud echoed from the mirror. Then another. Thump, thump. Something was pressing harder now. A face began to form in the mist, mouth open, eyes hollow. No detail, just the imprint, the presence. And then, like a whisper crawling along his spine, he heard it again. Not with his ears this time, but inside his head. Don't look away. It came from the mirror. From the thing inside. Ethan turned away instinctively, and the room shifted violently. The floor felt uneven, like it had tilted slightly. The lights dimmed, the shadows lengthened. And from behind him, laughter. Childlike. Giggling. Mocking. He turned back to the mirror. The surface was now completely black. No reflection. Just void. Then, it cracked. A single fracture appeared, crawling like a vein across the center. Another crack joined it, then another. The sound was deafening, yet outside the storm roared louder. Rain lashed the window, wind howled, but inside room 917, all of it faded behind the sharp crack, crack, crack of glass under strain. Ethan staggered back, slipping onto the carpet, just as the mirror burst open. Not with shards, but with darkness. Not broken glass, not pieces. Hands. Thin, gray, trembling hands. They reached through the surface, clawing their way out of the mirror's frame. 1, then 2, then a dozen. Pale and wet, like they came from underground. And behind them, eyes. So many eyes. Blinking. Watching. Hungry. Ethan screamed. And outside, the storm kept falling. Ethan scrambled backward on the floor, his heels slipping on the damp carpet as the hands reached further from the mirror. One of them clawed at the air, its fingers long and jointed strangely, as if they didn't belong to anything human. Another brushed the edge of the nightstand, toppling the lamp and plunging the room into darkness. Only the occasional lightning outside gave him brief flashes of what was happening. Flash. The hands had made it halfway out of the mirror. Flash, a head began to emerge, smooth, hairless, with sunken pits where the eyes should have been. Ethan pushed himself up and bolted toward the door. The knob twisted uselessly in his grip again, still locked. Frustrated and panicking, he turned to the window. Maybe he could signal someone, Maybe he could jump if the room wasn't too high up. He pulled the curtains open. The window was gone. There was a wall in its place. A blank wall. No glass, no city view, no storm. Just a solid, concrete-like surface. He stumbled back, mouth opening in a soundless cry. The layout of the room had changed. His eyes darted to the bathroom door. Still there. He ran for it and slammed it shut behind him, flipping the light switch. The light flickered weakly to life, buzzing overhead. In the cracked mirror above the sink, his reflection looked back at him, haunted, pale, soaked with sweat. But something wasn't right. He leaned in closer. His reflection was smiling. He wasn't. It tilted its head slowly, mockingly, before lifting a hand and placing a finger over its lips. Shh! Ethan stumbled backward, knocking over a towel rack. The light above buzzed louder, then blinked out completely. Total darkness. Silence. Until he heard it, faint scratching. Not from the door, from below. He looked down. The tiles at his feet began to tremble. Hairline cracks split across the floor, and with them came a sickening stench, like rotting earth and mildew. A soft bubbling sound followed, and the ground beneath him sank just slightly. Then something pushed upward from the cracks. Flesh. Pale, pulsing. It looked like a face pressed beneath the tile. Eyes opened beneath the ceramic surface, staring directly at him. A mouth formed next, open in a silent scream. He screamed back. Ethan burst out of the bathroom, only to find the bedroom transformed. The bed was gone. The walls now stretched wider, unnaturally long. The mirror, still there, whole again, clean, as if nothing had happened. But written across the surface, smeared in something dark and thick, were 3 words. Let us in. Ethan stared at the message on the mirror, his breathing ragged, chest tight like a band was being cinched around it. Let us in. The words glistened as if freshly written. He looked down at his hands, clean, trembling, but the acrid smell of iron lingered in the air. Blood. He needed to get out. Now! He rushed to the door and began pounding on it. Help! Somebody! His voice cracked from desperation. The sound felt muffled, swallowed by the room itself, as if the walls absorbed his cries. Suddenly the pounding stopped, not his. The floor beneath him trembled. Thud. A vibration moved beneath the carpet. Ethan stumbled back, his heel catching in a fold in the rug. The floor wasn't solid anymore. It felt soft, almost hollow. Then, whispers, low, countless voices murmuring just beneath his feet. He knelt, pressing his ear to the floor. They were speaking in unison, but not in any language he knew. Just rhythmic, breathy syllables, chanting, over and over. And then, his name, Ethan, whispered from 1,000 mouths in perfect harmony. He jerked up, tripping over the chair beside the dresser. The mirror flickered like a video glitch. For a brief second, it showed the room as it once was. Clean, warm, normal. Then it changed again. The reflection now showed a man sitting in the corner. Not Ethan. Someone else. Thin, pale, wrapped in a hospital gown, hugging his knees to his chest. His face was partially obscured, but his eyes, wide and wild, were fixed on Ethan through the glass. Ethan spun to the corner. Empty. Back to the mirror, the man was now standing, his lips moving silently. He raised a hand and pointed at Ethan. Then he mouthed 3 words. Check the floor. Ethan turned slowly. The carpet near the bed, what used to be the bed, was curling at the edges, revealing wood underneath. Hard hammering, he approached, grabbed the corner, and yanked. The carpet came up with ease. Beneath it was a hatch, a square of dark wood with a rusted iron ring in the center. Why would there be a trapdoor in a hotel room? Against every instinct, Ethan pulled it open. A deep breath of cold, earthy air escaped from the darkness below. A wooden ladder descended into pitch blackness. Then, from behind him, the whispering returned. Not from the floor this time. From the mirror. Dozens of faces now pressed against the other side, mouths moving in eerie synchronization. And all at once they whispered, "Come down, Ethan." Ethan stared down into the hole beneath the trapdoor, heart thudding so loudly it drowned out the storm outside. The ladder creaked as he put one hand on it. Dust floated up, thick and heavy like forgotten breath. The voices from the mirror whispered louder now, some pleading, others laughing, all of them beckoning. One foot on the first rung, it shifted under his weight, then another. He descended slowly, the wood groaning with every step. The dim glow from room 917 faded behind him. After 6 rungs, the trapdoor slammed shut above. Darkness swallowed him whole. Panic surged. He reached upward, but the door was gone. No latch, no outline. Just smooth, cold stone where the ceiling had been. He was trapped. He reached into his pocket and fumbled for his phone. Its screen lit dimly. No signal, just 1% battery. He turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the black and revealed what lay ahead. A tunnel, narrow, dirt-lined, reinforced by rotting wooden beams. The floor was mud, slick and uneven. The walls wept moisture. Somewhere ahead, water dripped in a rhythmic pattern, echoing like a slow heartbeat. Drip, drip, drip. Ethan moved forward, his breath shallow. The air down here was dense, filled with mildew and something metallic. Blood? He couldn't tell. After several steps, he found markings on the wall. Scratches, fingernail scrapes. Names carved violently into the wood. J. Wallace, 1987. Miriam R., still here. Don't look back. That last one made his stomach turn. He kept walking. And then he heard footsteps behind him. Soft, wet, like bare feet on damp earth. He froze. The sound stopped too. He turned quickly. Nothing there. But when he turned forward again, the tunnel had changed. It split into 2 paths. No signs, no indicators. Just dark left or dark right. The air down the left path smelled sharper, acidic like something long dead. The right path, silent, still. He chose the right. Deeper he went, the tunnel closing in around him. The silence was thick. Until a voice. Just ahead. Feminine, broken. "Ethan, please, help me." His throat tightened. "Who's there?" he called out. Silence. Then again, this time closer. "Ethan, I'm cold." His flashlight flickered. He shook it. The light steadied for a moment, then died. Pitch black. He stood frozen, heart hammering, as he felt a cold breeze brush past his face. But they were underground. Then next to his ear, a whisper. "I can see you." Ethan's breath caught in his throat as the whisper lingered, hanging in the darkness like a presence too close to ignore. His skin crawled, his entire body tensed, frozen by the weight of the voice that seemed to come from inside his head, not just from the shadows. "I can see you." The words were slow, drawn out, as if savoring the fear that echoed through Ethan's spine. His heart raced, his mind screamed for him to run, but the darkness held him captive, the cold pressing in from every direction. The silence grew thicker, and the air around him seemed to tighten like a noose. The whisper came again, closer this time, like a cold breath against his ear. "I'm right behind you." He spun around, but again, nothing. Nothing except the feeling of eyes on him. Thousands of them, unblinking, watching from every corner of the tunnel. But where? His flashlight had gone out completely now. No light, no direction. Only the echo of his own breathing, ragged and shallow. His mind raced. He needed to move. He needed to get out. But where? The voice changed. It was now layered, fragmented, like a chorus of voices speaking in unison. Each one a twisted reflection of the other. "We're all lost here. All of us. Forever." Ethan stumbled forward, hands scraping against the walls. feeling for any sign of light, of hope. The tunnel felt endless now, stretching on and on, the walls closing in tighter with every step. The floor beneath him was soft, wet, like mud, or worse, flesh. He didn't dare look down. Then, ahead, movement. A figure, faint at first, then clearer as he stumbled closer. A person? No, not a person. It was too distorted, too wrong. It was hunched, its back arched unnaturally, skin pale and slick. The figure's head swiveled unnaturally, its eyes, large, black, and vacant, locked onto Ethan's with a piercing intensity. The mouth opened wide, a gaping hole where teeth once were, revealing a deep, hollow darkness inside. The figure took a step forward, then another. And then it spoke, its voice rasping, like nails on stone. "You shouldn't have come. You shouldn't have come down here." The words were hollow, devoid of any real sound, as though the figure itself was barely human anymore. Just another trapped soul, another lost thing within the endless dark. Ethan backed up, heart hammering. He needed to get away from this thing, but the path was blocked. The tunnel seemed to curve around him, pulling him deeper. The walls seemed to twist, narrowing. Then in the distance, another figure appeared. And another. Ethan's eyes went wide with terror. They were everywhere now. Faces, distorted, warped, their eyes locked onto him. Their mouths moved, whispering in that same eerie chorus. "Help us! Let us out! You shouldn't be here!" The walls closed in. The figures pressed closer. There was no escape. And then, without warning, the floor beneath him cracked open. Ethan screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the earth. He fell. Ethan's scream died in his throat as he plunged into darkness, the air rushing past him, thick and cold, carrying the scent of soil and rot. His body slammed into wet earth below, the impact knocking the wind out of him. For a moment he just lay there, dazed, listening to the fading echoes above. Then silence. Complete, oppressive silence. He groaned and pushed himself up. The ground was slick with mud, and something sticky clung to his hands. He didn't want to know what. His phone was gone, swallowed by the fall. He was blind again, but not deaf. Somewhere in the distance, faint and ghostly, came the sound of a lullaby. A woman's voice, soft, melancholy. "Hush now, child. The dark won't bite," it repeated over and over, like a broken music box. But there was no warmth in it, only dread. Ethan moved slowly, one hand trailing along the cold walls of this deeper chamber. The air was so still, it felt like it hadn't moved in years. His fingers brushed carvings, symbols, circles, and names etched into the walls, hundreds of them. And then he found something else. A door, wooden, arched, bound in iron. It stood impossibly tall, rising from the dirt like it had always been there. Carved across its surface in deep gouges were 3 words. "We never left." The lullaby grew louder. He had a choice, stay in this pit or see what lay beyond. Ethan grabbed the iron handle and pulled. The door groaned open. What lay beyond was impossible. It was a room, or maybe a hall, but it stretched on far longer than any building could allow. The walls were lined with mirrors, tall, gilded, ornate, but each mirror reflected a different place, different people. One showed a girl crying in a hospital room. Another, a man pacing in a cell, his mouth stitched shut. Another, a figure curled in the fetal position inside room 917. And in one, Ethan saw himself, standing, looking into the mirror. But in the reflection, he wasn't alone. A woman stood behind him, her face pale and twisted with grief, her eyes black holes. Her mouth hung open as if mid-scream. Ethan whirled around. Nothing. Then a whisper, not from a mirror, from inside his head. "You belong to the hotel now." Every mirror shattered at once, the sound like 1,000 bones breaking. Shards rained down but never touched him. When he looked again, the mirrors weren't broken. They were gone, replaced by doors. each one slightly ajar. From behind them came the sounds of footsteps, laughter, crying, and a low, inhuman growl. They were opening. One by one, Ethan turned, heart racing, and behind him, the door he came through had vanished. Ethan stood frozen as the doors creaked open all around him. The air grew thick, charged with static and something older, heavier, like the feeling you get just before lightning strikes. He took a step back, eyes darting from one opening to the next, unsure which horror would come through first. Then came the sound. Not a voice, not footsteps, a heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. But it wasn't his. It echoed from the walls, pulsing through the floor, synchronized with the dim red glow that began to spread across the ceiling like blood soaking into a sheet. One of the doors swung open fully. Ethan turned toward it. Inside was a small room, dimly lit by a flickering lamp. At first it looked like a regular hotel room, but something was wrong. The bed was overturned. The walls were scorched. And on the floor was a chalk outline of a body, his size. As he stepped into the room, he felt it immediately. The cold, the weight, a presence. Then, the door slammed shut behind him. He rushed back, pulled at the handle. Whoa, no, locked. From inside the room, a record player began to spin. A soft jazz tune crackled to life, the kind you'd hear in a lounge in the 1940s. Notes floated in the air like dust motes, unnatural in their calmness. Ethan turned slowly, his heart in his throat. On the bed now, a woman, dressed in a blood-stained wedding gown. Her back was to him, her head tilted unnaturally to one side. She whispered something inaudible, rocking slowly back and forth. "Hello?" Ethan said, voice hoarse. She stopped rocking. The whispering ceased. Then, ever so slowly, she began to turn. But her body didn't move, just her head, rotating a full 180 degrees. Her face was pale and bloated, her eyes milky white, her lips pulled back into a grin too wide, revealing blackened gums and shattered teeth. Ethan stumbled backward. The record skipped. She rose from the bed without standing, just floated upward, limbs dangling, feet never touching the ground. She opened her mouth, and from it came not a scream, but voices, hundreds of them, all crying, shouting, whispering at once. "Get out! Stay! Help me!" Ethan fell to his knees, clutching his ears. The sound too much, too invasive. It wasn't just noise, it was inside him. Thoughts that weren't his own. Memories that didn't belong to him. A man hanging from a ceiling fan. A child locked in a suitcase. A woman staring out the window, her wrists slashed open. All happening in room 917. All watching him. The bride floated closer. She extended a hand, her nails long and cracked. And in his mind, a final whisper. One of us. One of us. One of us. Ethan's body trembled as he scrambled away from the floating bride, her presence pressing in on him like an unseen weight. His breath came in sharp gasps, every sense heightened to a painful degree. The walls seemed to close in, the hallway beyond the room warping, the edges of reality itself starting to fray. The voices continued, whispering fragments of despair into his ears, gnawing at his sanity. He had to leave. His hand flew to the door. It was still locked. His fingers were numb, his hands slick with cold sweat as he tugged harder, but the door wouldn't budge. It was as if the very hotel was refusing to let him escape. The air became thick with the scent of decay, and he could feel the oppressive presence of the bride drawing closer. A cold gust of wind blew through the room, extinguishing the lamp, plunging him into darkness. Then, just as suddenly, the light flickered back on, except it wasn't the room he had been in anymore. It was a hallway, long, endless, lined with doors, all closed, each one identical. Ethan turned, his pulse pounding in his ears. There was no exit, no way out. He staggered backward, his mind spinning. Then, as if conjured by his panic, A voice cut through the silence. A low, malevolent whisper. You are already dead. The words didn't come from a mouth. They were inside his head, echoing with a deep, dark resonance that sent chills down his spine. The walls shifted as though they were alive, breathing, pulsating with each whisper. The hotel was a living, breathing entity, a sentient thing that fed on fear. Suddenly, a new door appeared in front of him. The others had all vanished, leaving just this one door in the middle of the hall. The handle was old, brass, tarnished with age, but it glowed faintly in the dim light. His instinct screamed for him to turn around and run, but the pull of the door was undeniable. His hand reached for the handle before he could stop himself. It was cool to the touch. The moment he grasped it, the temperature in the room dropped even further, the air biting into his skin. He turned the handle. The door creaked open, revealing nothing but blackness beyond. For a long moment, Ethan stood there, paralyzed, staring into the void. The air in front of him seemed to ripple as if reality itself was bending. And then, a scream. It wasn't human. It was loud, unnatural, and it seemed to come from everywhere at once. The very walls seemed to vibrate with the sound, making the floor beneath him tremble. Ethan recoiled, his heart pounding in his chest. The scream was followed by guttural growls, rasps, and whispers. A chorus of tormented voices echoed from the dark beyond the door. Something was waiting. Something had been waiting for him. He swallowed hard. No, 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 he muttered under his breath, his body shaking, but his feet were already moving, stepping toward the dark. The moment he crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind him, trapping him in the suffocating blackness. And then, just as quickly, the lights came on. But the room was different. This wasn't the hotel anymore. This was a cell, a small claustrophobic room, walls closing in on him. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, swinging slightly as if disturbed by some unseen force. He could hear the sounds of breathing. Heavy, labored breathing. Ethan spun around, his eyes wide with terror. In the far corner, just beyond the light, was a figure. A man hunched over. His back was to Ethan. But something wasn't right about him. The man's body twitched unnaturally, as if locked in a series of violent spasms. His hands were bound with thick ropes, and his feet shackled to the floor. His head jerked to the side, the face twisted in pain. The man's voice came out in a rasp. It was a warning, as clear as if someone were whispering it in his ear. "Run! Leave now! It's too late for me!" Ethan backed away from the shackled man in the corner, dread coiling tightly in his gut. The man's voice, though weak and broken, carried weight, desperation, like he had been trapped for years, maybe longer. The bulb above them swayed faster now, casting spinning shadows that danced violently on the walls. "Who are you?" Ethan asked, his voice nearly a whisper. The man didn't answer right away. He turned slightly, revealing a face covered in bruises and deep claw marks. His eyes were sunken, lips dry and cracked, but it was his expression that hit Ethan the hardest. An emotionless void, the kind that could only form after years of hopelessness. "I was like you," the man said, voice raspy. "A guest, checking in for one night." Ethan's throat tightened. "What is this place?" The man's head tilted, the motions strained. "It's not just a hotel, it's them, the ones who stayed, the ones the world forgot. The hotel feeds off them, through us." "Why me?" "Because you saw it," the man said. "Room 917. You walked in. That's all it takes. You noticed. Now you can't unsee it. Now, it wants you." Ethan's pulse throbbed in his ears. "There has to be a way out." The man gave a bitter laugh. "You think I haven't tried? You think I haven't screamed, begged, clawed my way through these walls?" He raised his wrists, bloody, raw. "They let you wander, make you think you have a chance, but the hotel always brings you back, always." Suddenly, the lights flickered. A low rumble vibrated through the floorboards. The man froze. His eyes widened. "They're coming," he whispered. Ethan turned toward the door, but there wasn't one. The walls had shifted again, closing in. And then came the footsteps. Dozens of them. Soft, dragging feet shuffling just beyond the walls, circling the room. A child's laughter echoed from the ceiling. Then a voice, not the man's, not Ethan's. Hers. The bride. Ethan. It was gentle, almost kind. He looked around in terror as the walls began to drip. Not water, something darker, like oil or blood. The bulb above him sparked violently, casting the room into stuttering flashes. And in those flashes, he saw them. Faces, pressed against the walls. Dozens. No, hundreds. Men, women, children. Screaming, mouths open in silent agony, fingers scratching endlessly from the other side. Their skin was pale, thin like parchment, eyes hollow. One of them looked just like him. The man in the corner began to convulse. His eyes rolled back, body seizing. "They're inside," he choked. "Inside me. I can't." A loud snap cut him off. His body twisted unnaturally and collapsed in silence. Ethan screamed and backed into the corner, his hands trembling as the walls started to breathe, expanding and contracting like a throat ready to swallow him whole. Then the floor cracked beneath his feet, and Ethan fell, again. But this time there was no bottom, only the sound of a closing door, and a whisper. Last chance. Ethan fell for what felt like forever, his body weightless, tumbling through suffocating darkness. No wind, no sense of up or down. Just the echo of that last whisper still ringing in his head. Last chance. Suddenly impact. He landed hard on a soaked carpet. Rain dripped steadily from a broken ceiling above, pooling around him. Gasping, he sat up, blinking against the faint glow of a hallway light. He was back. In the lobby. But something was wrong. The front desk was intact now, polished and shining. The chandelier above glittered like it was brand new. Everything looked normal, like nothing had ever happened. No flickering lights, no cracked walls. Just the sound of soft jazz humming through hidden speakers. But it was empty. Too empty. Ethan stood slowly, testing his limbs. No pain, no blood. Even his clothes were dry. His heart pounded. This had to be another trick. Then he saw it. A bellboy, standing silently beside the elevator. The man was tall, face blank, dressed in a pristine red uniform. He didn't move, didn't blink, just pointed to the open elevator door behind him. Ethan hesitated. "I want to leave. I didn't ask for any of this." The bellboy tilted his head slightly, and for a moment, something inhuman shimmered behind his eyes. "No one ever asks," he said softly, "but the hotel remembers. It always remembers." Ethan backed away, turning toward the glass doors at the front. He ran to them, flung them open. Rain poured outside. But the city was gone. In its place, an endless hallway, just like the one upstairs. Door after door after door stretching into infinity. The storm raged above, but no sky could be seen. Only more hotel, more walls, more darkness. He wasn't in Houston anymore. He wasn't anywhere. Suddenly he heard the ding of the elevator. He turned. The doors were still open. The bellboy still standing there, expression unchanged. It was his only option. Trembling, he stepped inside. The doors closed behind him with a soft hiss. No buttons, no floor numbers. Just one small keyhole, already turned. The elevator shuddered. It moved down. Lights above dimmed one by one as the car descended. Ethan swallowed hard, heart pounding. Finally, it stopped. The doors slid open, revealing room 917. But it was different now. Inside a table, a chair, and a single, old-fashioned guest book. Ethan stepped forward. On the table sat a pen and a card. It read, "Thank you for staying. Sign below to check out. He hesitated, then picked up the pen. His name trembled as he wrote it. Ethan Caldwell. The moment he lifted the pen, the room dissolved. He was standing in the rain again, this time outside the hotel. Cars honked in the distance. Pedestrians passed by with umbrellas. The city was alive. Normal. The Hotel Whitmore stood behind him. Empty, quiet, no lights in the windows. As if it had never opened. Ethan stumbled away, soaked, shaking, heart racing. He never spoke of what happened. He never returned. But years later, long after his hair had turned gray and the nightmares faded to dull scars, he passed the old building again. It was for sale, boarded up, and just visible in the upper window of room 917, a woman in a wedding dress, watching, waiting.